Hey guys, so beets. Some of you might have like childhood horror stories of beets. Some of you may love them. Some of you maybe have never even tried them and don't really know what to do with them. Well, that's going to change today. I'm Jen Sabotin of FuelYourTransformation.com, and today we are going to deal with some beets here. And actually, I'm going to give you a twofer. I'm going to talk with you today about how to roast beets, and actually I'm going to show you two different ways that you can do that. And then I'm also going to show you what to do with the beet greens, or the stems, the leaves that are above ground, because the beet itself is a root vegetable. It's under the ground. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I happened to be at the grocery store today, and they had the beets with the greens. So this is what they look like. This is what they would be when you pulled them out of the ground. So this part would be underground, and then the stems and leaf would be above the ground. And so a lot of times you can find them like this at your grocery store. You can find them like this at a farmer's market. Here's the deal with this. If you want to be using the beet greens, and I recommend them, and there's several ways that you can use them, a lot of vitamins and nutrients in the greens. So if you're going to use them, then go ahead and buy them this way. But if you're going to throw them away, if the beets at your grocery store are by the pound, you may want to ask at the store for them to remove the greens there so that you're not paying for that. You know what I mean? So you're paying for the weight of this if it's by the pound. And if you're not going to use the greens, then you can just ask them to remove that. But I recommend getting them this way and then using all of that. All right? So I've got several beets here. Now the other thing with beets is inside the beet, and we'll get there in a second, but it's the same beautiful color, this red color that you see here, the purplish red color, and it can stain. It can stain your clothes, can stain your fingers, all of that. So probably not wearing your favorite shirt when you're cooking beets. Maybe even gloves if you're going to be worried about your hands turning reddish pink. You know, if you don't want to be considered a suspect for law and order, you might want to get a pair of those gloves on when you're working with them. But you don't have to. It's totally fine. It's not terrible, so it'll wash off after a day or so. So the first thing that I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to cut off the stalks, the stems, and the greens right here about an inch above where the beet actually is. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I'm just taking my knife and freeing the actual beets. So here they are, and these are beautiful, nice. You want to be sure when you're selecting them at the grocery store that they're very firm. They should be hard, like a sweet potato or a potato. They shouldn't be soft. If they're soft and mushy, then they're not fresh. So you need to check for that. And what I'm going to do over here with this is I'm going to take these greens, and I'm just going to put them here in my colander for a minute, because I'm going to rinse those and talk to you about a recipe using those greens. The other thing is sometimes you can get, I told you they were root vegetables, so sometimes you can get that little thing. Just give it a little cut off the bottom. So you've got the beets this way. And here's the deal. One way that I'm going to show you is roasting the beets whole like this. All right, so for this method, you need a baking dish. So I've got my 9x13 baking dish. I'm going to add about a 1/4 inch. I'm using vegetable stock. You could totally use water. It's not really important. I just have some stock that I need to use up, so I'm going to do that. And I'm just setting the beets in there. Literally, that's it. You just lay them in there. Get them so that they're stable. And then you want to cover it. Now, if you happen to have a baking dish that actually has its own lid, that would be fantastic. I'm just going to use some foil here and wrap that around the side. And you want to get it so that it's on there and not going to come off during the cooking. And that's it. That would go in the oven. The beets that I had there were pretty good size, so I would guess about an hour at 450. Again, you want to keep them covered. The way to know if they're done is if you poke the tip of a knife in and it goes in and it's nice and soft. It goes in and comes out softly. Then they're done. I'm going to guess about 50 to 60 minutes. I'll check them at that point and see if they need to have any more time. So my oven is ready for those. I'm going to go ahead and pop those in. And no, I don't have the magic trick where some are already ready. I'd like to do that one day, but I don't have that right now. So I'm going to talk to you about the second way that you can prepare beets. So I have another set of beets, and I'm going to go through the same process that I did. They were lovely today at the grocery store, I got to say. Sometimes you don't get the greens with them. Sometimes your grocery just doesn't have them that way. But sometimes today they did, so I got them this way because they're lovely. So in this case, I'm cutting them again, just cutting off that part. I'm going to save that and use that later. And for these, in this method, we're actually going to peel the beets. Now, for this is where, again, well, you maybe can see it there. A little bit of that red on the knife there. So yeah, they can stain your hands, especially when you're getting to the inside. You don't have to use gloves, but I am going back to work tomorrow. My holiday weekend is ending, so I am going to use some gloves while I peel these, just so that my hands are okay for tomorrow. So all I'm going to do with these is take my vegetable peeler. You could use a knife. That would be fine. And I'm going to actually use my knife and cut off just the top of the beet and the little tip at the bottom. So you see that beautiful color right there? That's the inside of the beet. Isn't that gorgeous? So I'm going to do that for all of them here real quick, and then I'll get to the peeling. And so in this case, we're actually removing the peel before we cook them. The other beets that we have in the oven, if you remember, we just put them in whole. Those, once they're done roasting in the oven, you just give them a little slit and they'll come right out of their skin after they're cooked. So either way, so all I'm going to do now is take my vegetable peeler and, you just, if you've never done it, you just drag a vegetable peeler along the skin and it peels off little strips like that. So I'm just going to run this around the edges here. I'm going up and down, but there's no like right or wrong direction. And you're just getting off a thin layer of peel. Again, you could use a knife. If you're using a knife, be real careful with that. You don't want to take off your finger or any part like that. And personally, I mean, these peel pretty easily with the vegetable peeler. The thing with the knife is a lot of people end up removing too much. They're taking off more than the skin. If you see this, this is paper thin. I'm just taking off a little tiny bit. So if you're going with the knife, be careful that you're not removing some of that gorgeous beet because you paid for that and that's the part you want to eat. So there it is. It's all peeled. It's beautiful, right? Kind of looks like a red onion there. All right, so I'm going to do that real quick to these. I don't have that through the magic of television thing since it's live, but it's not going to take too long. And I will tell you here while we're finishing up with these, I mentioned to you that I'm saving those greens over there. And so what we're going to do with those, we're having steak for our dinner tonight. And I'm going to use these beet greens as a side dish with dinner. A lot of people have had, spinach, wilted spinach, or, kale is all the rage now, right? So you can do that with any kind of those greens. And so I'm just going to use the beet greens and saute those up with dinner with a little bit of garlic and onions and that. So I'll talk with you more about that recipe as well. But right now my greens are just sitting in the colander. As soon as I get the beets in the oven, I'm going to take those greens and just rinse them off and then blanch them. And I'll talk to you about blanching in a second. I'm almost done. A little bit more of the beet to go here. And what we're going to do with this method is similar to, in one of the earlier episodes, I talked with you about roasting vegetables, roasting sweet potatoes, roasting squash. I like to roast a lot of different vegetables. And so we're going to use that same method with just a little bit of salt and pepper and olive oil. It's really easy. All right. So I've got my beets all peeled up, and they are absolutely beautiful, guys. So all I'm going to do right now is I'm cutting them in half, and that just kind of gives me a flat surface that's stable. And then I'm going to, and you have to look at them. I mean, there's not a formula or something like that, but you want to cut them into chunks that are close to the same size. That way they cook similar time. It takes the same time to cook them. If you have chunks that are really small and then chunks that are really big, those are going to cook at different rates. So I'm going for, I don't know, it's about an inch cube-ish. All right. And again, if you notice that some are a little bit bigger, you can just give them a little chop so that you get pieces that are all about the same size. And what I have here, didn't show you this, is I have my sheet tray, and I am just literally cutting them and putting them right over there on the tray. So let me get these cut into chunks as well. Couple there. And this one, so this might happen. I noticed a little bit of a bad spot. I don't know if you can see that. A little bit of a bad spot right there. No big deal. I'm just going to cut that little part off. The whole rest of this section is fine. So if you notice a bad spot, all I got to do is just cut that part off. No big deal. All right. And, oh, they look beautiful. All right. Our last one, this one's big. There we go. All right. So, not my most exciting few minutes there, but we got them so that they are chunked at about the same size. I see a couple that need a little bit more of a chop. There we go. So I have this beautiful tray of beets right here. And so now all I'm going to do, I'm going to swap out my cutting board here. All I'm going to do is to take a little bit of oil, a little bit of olive oil. You could use vegetable oil, whatever. And I'm just going to go with a little drizzle. All right, if you're not sure, like I said in an earlier episode, you could do this in a zip top bag so that you can kind of control the oil. That way, if you happen to put a little too much, when you're scooping them out at the end, you don't have all the oil there. You don't want them swimming in oil. All right, I'm going to guess that that was about 1/2 tablespoon, which is 1.5 teaspoons. So not a lot. So now they're all coated in oil. And the next thing I'm going to go for, and I'm done touching the beets, so I'm going to, well, actually, I'm going to give them a stir, but I'm going to use a little bit of salt here. So I use kosher salt, and I'm just giving them a sprinkle. You want to make sure everybody gets into the party here. All right. And I'm going to give them a little bit of pepper, so cracked black pepper. And that's it. So I am going to go ahead and just kind of massage them, zhuzh them around a little bit, get everybody in there. Everybody's coated. And that's it. That's all there is to it. These are going to go in the oven also. Same thing for about an hour, same temperature, 450. So we've got beets that are already cut. They're peeled and cut, and they're going to roast that way. And then we've got beets that were whole that went in. They're taking about the same amount of time. These you can check by, again with a fork if they're tender, or give them a little touch with your finger. These are all going to, because they're all exposed to the heat, they're going to kind of have a little bit of that crunchy outside, a little bit, you know, how it caramelizes a little bit. You can flip them over during cooking if you feel that you need to. So yeah, these are going right in the oven. Now, let me put them in there. And so the last thing I want to talk about real quick is those beet greens. So I've got them here. I'm going to take them out of their ties and all of that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the sink. I've got the sink full of cold water. I'm just going to rinse them out in case there's any, you know, dirt or soil or sand or anything like that. Get them cleaned off, pat them dry. I'm not going to worry about drying them off because then I'm going to stick them in a pot. I have my stock pot already on the stove. It's full of boiling water. I'm going to give it a little dash of salt in there. And then I'm just going to blanch them. That means that you put them in the hot water. You boil them for about 2 minutes. Blanching, it depends how long, but these, because the stems are thick, so I'm going to blanch them for about 2 minutes, and then I'm going to take them into a sink full of cold water to stop the cooking process. So the blanching just semi-cooks them. It doesn't cook them all the way through. After they're done and they get cooled off in the sink of cold water, then I'm just going to rough chop them up, and that's what I'm going to use tonight in my skillet with some garlic, some onion, a little bit of crushed red pepper flakes, olive oil, saute them up, and it'll be like a wilted green sort of dish. So I will show you guys that tonight. So 2 trays, different ways of roasted beets, and a tip for what to do with the beet greens. That's all for now, guys. I'm Jen Sabotin. Hope you try beets. I've got a salad that I posted recently that a lot of people commented they wanted to try. That's what these are going to go into. So I've got that coming up later too.